Thing with our oral history microphone, and we're down on the bottom road between Benton and Sharp, and we're visiting in the home of Dan Irvin. Thanks for letting me come, Dan.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome.
As we were just sitting here preparing to get started, we were talking about the fact that we're related.
That's right.
And I've never known you very well, and I'm sure you've never been around me very much. But my mother was an Irvin, and naturally your father was an Irvin.
Right.
And I've heard her speak of Uncle Steve, which I believe is your dad.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Her father was Solon.
Right. Yes, sir.
And there were quite a number of those people. I'm not sure I can name all of them, but we used to live on my Uncle Rob Jackson's place, and he married Ida Irvin. So I was around them quite a bit.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, see, we got scattered all over the whole country. You people stayed around Hardin and on up around Wagesboro, and we moved on around down close to Calvert City.
Mm-hmm.
See, and we didn't get to see one another too much.
Now, were you born in Marshall
I
County?
was born in Marshall County. I was born right there at the four-way stop on the hill on the right going towards Murray, where my grandfather owned a farm there.
Mm-hmm.
My dad lived on a little farther over, around the Reddens. You ever know any Reddens?
Oh, I knew a number of Reddens.
Okay.
Now, that brings up some more relatives. My father had Reddens in his background some way.
Yes.
In fact, his dad's mother was a Redden, and his father's name was Robert Redden Mofield. And now that's all I can tell you about it. I can't trace it from there, but I know a lot of Reddens. Mr. Redden used to own Peggy Ann Spring.
Yes. Well, you know, my grandfather, John Irvin, he's my grandfather, he owned a pretty good farm there. Just before you get to the four-way stop, you turn to the right off of the highway now and go up on top of the big hill. The old road is still there. It's growed up pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And he owned, if I ain't mistaken, a pretty big farm. I don't know just how many acres. I've heard my dad talk about it.
Now, that generation of Irvins, and John Irvin, I suppose, is the same one who is my great-grandfather.
Right.
Were rather wealthy. In fact, his brother, Hardin Davenport Irvin, owned from Wadesboro to Hardin, apparently, and when they built the railroad, he moved his store from Wadesboro to Hardin, and they named the town after him. So I have found his grave. He's buried in the Murray Cemetery, Hardin D. Irvin. And I believe John Irvin, my great-grandfather, is buried in a little country cemetery, pretty well grown up and so on, out on the road between Wadesboro and Kirksey.
And you're right. Yes, sir. That's right.
Well, let's see. Your dad then was Steve Irvin, and who was your mother?
Daisy Barnhart.
Mm-hmm.
Daisy Barnhart. Now, they come from around Wagesboro. The Barnharts did.
Mm-hmm.
Her father was Dan Barnhart,
Mm-hmm.
and her mother was Sally Barnhart. I don't know whether you ever knew them or not.
I remember a few of the Barnharts. In fact, I believe that a lady named Smith, who lives there in Hardin now, I believe she married a Barnhart, and I see her at the Hardin school reunion from time to time.
Yes. My mother had about 8 sisters and 1 brother. Andrew Taylor married one of the girls, Betty. I don't know whether you ever know Andrew. Did you ever know Andrew Taylor? Taz Taylor and all of them?
Don't think
You
so.
don't think? Well, then one married Dean Barnes, and one married Moore, Glenn Moore.
Mm-hmm.
One of them married Scott Borders. You ever know any Borders?
Oh, yes.
Scott lived there at Hardin, you know, just up above, well, just across,
I remember him.
right there by the, I believe, the restaurant, I believe, right behind the restaurant there, pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now he married one of the girls. Claude Hurt married one. You know, Claude and them lived,
Yes.
all his family lived up around Hardin, but pretty big family.
Right. Now, where did you go to grade school?
I believe my first grade school was at Sanders Ridge, down here on Tennessee River.
Mm-hmm.
It's just below Al Tony. I don't know where people knows where Al Tony. You've heard talk about it, I believe.
Yes,
Maybe.
I've heard of it many times.
Down the Tennessee River Road, like you's coming on down into, say, Little Cypress.
Mhm.
It's about halfway between Little Cypress, I'd say, and Al Tony. One-room school. I went there, I don't know just how many years I went there. Then Coursey School.
Now, I've heard of Coursey. I don't believe I'd ever heard of Sanders Ridge.
Okay, now Coursey set right in front of GAF at Calvert here. It'd be north of Calvert going towards Ferry Landing, see. And my school teacher there was Jim Gillihan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many years I went to Jim Gillihan, but he was a fine man and a good teacher. But I don't know just how many years. We don't know. See, we moved pretty often, different places. We moved up and down the Tennessee River quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know at the times we've moved back to different places. Maybe the Agner, you remember Frank Agner? I know you've heard talk about him.
Oh, yes, I remember.
We lived on his place there for about, I guess, 8 or 10 years. Then we moved from Frank Agner's over on this Howard's Grove community.
I know about where that is.
All right. We lived on the Grubbs place, Henry Grubbs. Mm-hmm. Then we lived on the Nation place. That was Mr. Henry Grubbs' wife's mother's place. We lived there. Then I went to courses, Howard's Grove School. And Hoover Howard was a teacher. Mm-hmm. Then his sister Elizabeth married Sambo Hurl, or Albert Hurl. I know you know Albert, don't you?
Oh, yes, I know Albert, and I know his wife, and I recall that she taught school.
Yes, I went to her, then
they had a son that made a physician, unfortunately died in a plane crash.
You're right.
And married Lake Riley's daughter, didn't he?
Let's see now.
And they had, seemed to me, a couple of small children when that
now, Hoover,
unfortunate thing occurred.
Hoover, did he get burned up or did he get killed? I don't know how he got killed. Now that was Elizabeth's brother. Then she had another brother, 2 more brothers. John was one. John's still living over around close to where the old home place is at.
Mm-hmm.
He's the youngest one, I guess. But I don't know about what happened there. But anyway, the next teacher I believe I had was Blanche Tremmel. Do you know Blanche?
Yes. Now, she's a hardened girl.
Okay, then Mildred Wallace. Do you know her?
No, I don't think so. But...
Well, then Ruby Marson.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever know Ruby Marson?
Well, now I've heard the name.
She was my teacher. Then down at Sanders Ridge, this Blackful, Reader Blackful, was a teacher down there.
Mm-hmm.
I never will forget one time I was in some meetings down there, but I don't know what it was about. But we was all going to get a whooping. There was about 5 or 6 of us. And they called their names out, and we marched up the aisle, and she had a bundle of switches. Well, she laid it on them boys, and I thought how good it might be on me if I'd put a woman's coat on.
Mm-hmm.
And the coat racks was hanging in the back, you know, fixed. So I got one of the coats, come down about to my ankles. I walked up that aisle, and when I got up there, she jerked that coat tail up, and she really wore me out.
It made her angry, didn't it?
Made her mad, but anyway, I deserved it, I guess, in a way. I don't know what happened there, but something happened. We might have said something or done something.
Well, now, I've had a good many paddlings at school in my life, so I know what you're talking about. But sometimes they'd use switches and sometimes paddles.
Yes, most of the time they used the switches, and they'd go pretty well around, you know. Whoever done the cutting, all the switches done a good job.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I had a teacher named Thal Phillips. I'll tell you this story right quick.
Okay.
But he, one day, he was pretty busy, and so he said, "Ray, you go cut the switch that I'm to whip you with." So I took the knife. He gave me a knife, and I went out and I cut a switch that was nearly as big around as your arm. And, you know, you wouldn't have wanted to whip the mule with it.
No.
You'd been afraid you'd kill it.
Yes.
So he was I thought, a man without a sense of humor. But he was a crippled fella. He had a wooden leg, and he was rather old. So I brought Switchback, and he started laughing, and he laughed, and he laughed till he cried. And he finally said, "Ray, you don't think you've been that mean, do you?" And so he said, "Well, I'm going to let you go this time." Now, if I'd cut a little tiny switch,
Well,
he'd have wore me out.
well, I don't know how they did what they done about the teaching of the school from 1 grade up to the 8th grade.
It was a terrible job.
I don't know how they ever done it. They couldn't do it now, I don't believe. The teachers could.
I doubt if they could.
They couldn't spend too much time. I don't know. I guess they did. I don't know how many minutes we spent in class. You know what I mean, up in class. But everything kind of rolled on pretty nicely.
Not only did they teach 8 grades, while we had 5 or 6 subjects. I can remember, from 6th, 7th, and 8th, you'd have reading,
Yes.
writing, arithmetic, spelling, history, geography,
Yes.
physiology. We had a little health course, and
Yes.
so on. So there's about 8 different courses and 8 different grades. Now, you couldn't give much time in 64 classes.
No, I don't believe you could. I don't know how it, but it seemed like everything rolled on just as nice could be. It wasn't too much trouble. I mean, the
No.
little ones, I don't know where, I ain't saying that they spend as much time then as they do now. They may not. Of course, they've got more teachers and more classes, you know.
But you know, the good students then were just as good as they are today.
Yes, you're right.
Well, let's get you out of school, and what did you do when you graduated?
Well, I farmed off and on with my dad, and I'd hire out to people.
Mm-hmm.
I went and hired out, worked for Glenn Norman. Did you ever know him?
No, was it a long work day?
Yes. We'd work anywhere from 12 hours and go in and milk a bunch of cows and feed a bunch of hogs. I stayed with him for about 6 years, farming with him. That's all I've done. Well, now I worked on the dam up here. I believe I went on the dam in 42, I guess. Might have been 41. I went up there and went to work as labor.
Mm-hmm.
I worked up there just a little while on labor, then they set me up as a diamond bill drill helper. It drilled them holes with a diamond bit.
Mm-hmm. Core drilling.
Well, and I stayed there for 18 months, and I got a call to the Army, and I had to go to the Army. So outside of working up there,
Well, now you were married by that time, weren't
I
you?
was married and had one child. My oldest girl was a baby at the time I left and went to the Army. I went to the Army in 43, January of 43.
Well, now you must have been just about as old as you could have been.
Well, I was the first father that they took out of Marshall County, I do believe. One of the first ones, I'll say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they held the fathers back a while, and they finally took them in.
They started, or the original draft was 21 to 44,
Yes.
I believe. And how old are you now?
I'm 67-year-old.
Well, you were fairly close to being too old to go, weren't you?
Well, yes. Yes, I was. I was right on the border line, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I stayed in the Army from 43 to 45 of September, but I don't know what day it was. I got out in September. My father passed away in June of 1945.
Mm-hmm.
And then the war began to ease up, you know, I believe, maybe. I don't know just how it was, but it kept on fighting a little, and a bunch of boys that I had trained with went on over, and they sent me home.
The war with Germany ended on May the 8th, and then we expected the war with Japan to run 3 years. I remember the old slogan, Golden Gate by 48.
Yes.
And then, of course, President Truman decided to drop the atomic bomb, and it ended in August
I believe so.
of 45, and they
45.
signed a peace treaty on board the Missouri on September 1st or something like that.
Well, I got out, I believe, along about, I don't know what day in September after they dropped the bomb over there and cleared. But it was a lot of policing staying over there, and so they sent this, the company I was with, I believe they had to go. But they sent me home and sent them on over to police up, stay guard, I don't know just what.
Where did you train?
I was in North Camp Hood, Texas.
Mhm.
I spent 6 months there. Then we moved from North Camp Hood, Texas, down to Camp Shelby, Mississippi.
Mhm.
Then we maneuvered from Mississippi down into New Orleans and all down through there, see.
Yeah.
We took the advanced training and was fixing to leave, I believe about, you said August, I didn't know just what time they dropped that bomb. And then they sent these boys over to maybe to relieve some other boys of my outfit, and they sent me home. Then I stayed there 45. I got home in September in 45. Then I sold a farm up here around Calvert, and I bought a farm right down below me here.
Uh-huh.
It was a Crenshaw farm. Dr. Stinson out here at Sharp owned it, and I bought it from Dr. Stinson in 46, in June 1946.
Mhm.
The 6th day of June, we moved down. Pauline and I had 2 kids in.
Now, you mentioned Pauline. That's your wife.
That's my wife. She
Now-
was Pauline Angle. She was Randolph Angle's daughter and Corey Angle's daughter.
Now, where did you meet her?
We met at school. She went to House Grove school, and I did too. So I met her there at school, and she was younger than me. That's smart. I believe we got married. She was about 16, I believe, 15 or 16 when we married. We married in 1940,
Mm-hmm.
the 29th day of June.
And
So that'd be about, what, 47 years this coming June.
Right. You're aiming for that 50th anniversary. Did you keep farming?
Kept farming, and I worked on the dam, and I farmed on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked 8 hours on the dam up there. Then I most of the time was on afternoons. Then I'd get up and work. I made a little crop, had a team, and well, she done a lot of help too. Milked some cows
She grew up on a farm.
on a farm. Yes, she did, right across the field from where we lived. They lived about a mile and a half or maybe a mile across the field from us. And we went to school together, and she started to high school at Calvert. But she dropped out, I don't know what reason, but anyway. Back then, it took a lot of money to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people didn't have no whole lot of money.
No.
Or we didn't, because we was a large family, and my daddy was a sharecropper, and you know about how that goes.
Yeah, so
Sure.
was mine.
We raised a lot of tobacco and corn. That's what we raised, 12 acres of tobacco at a time.
Now, tobacco my dad always said, took 13 months to grow dark-fired,
He's right.
because you had to burn that plant bed in January and sell it in February.
Yeah. We'd raise anywhere around 12 acres, and it had to be checked off, exactly checked off.
Applied both ways.
And a hill made and plowed both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And my daddy would do the topping. He'd top the first topping maybe 10, and the next topping 8. 10 leaves high and 8 leaves high. And it had to be, you know, cured out just as dark could be.
Mm-hmm.
And this day and time, they don't want it that way, but they said they made snuff or something out of it. I don't know, cigar maybe wrappers or something.
Mm-hmm.
But we never got nothing for it. I believe we got $2 and $4 and $6. 6, 4, and 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
6 for the good, 4 for the
I
next.
remember 1933, the best my dad had brought $3, and the lugs brought 2. No, excuse me, what we call seconds.
Right, seconds.
Brought
Yeah.
$2.
And the lugs was,
Brought $1.
yes, that's right.
And that was $1 100, not a pound the way they sell it now.
No, 100 pounds. We raised a few hogs, and we kept a couple of cows, had about from 2 to 4 head of horses. We lived down on the river here, close to Calvert, on the Stum place, they called it. Mr. Lee Cox owned it. And we put out, he got some, it was a good farm, Tennessee River bottom. We put that out, but you know, we had to do a lot of work, a lot of hoeing to be done in that corn. You know, wasn't no chemicals that you sprayed on you for
Now, what we
cook-up
call chopping corn, you were chopping out grass.
yeah, and horse weeds and cucumbers and grass. Everything had to be chopped out. Then my daddy plowed it till it got to silking just about it and tossing. Then we had to bust the middles out. You know, he
Now they've got no till.
no till.
Or,
And now we planted, this boy of mine, our oldest boy, Roger, we go over here in the bottom, we plant a field of corn, and he turns around and sprays it, and we never go back in there till we pick it.
now, Roger is a school teacher.
That's right. He's next to the oldest. I've got a girl older than he is. Wanda married Jimmy Rowe. Wanda Sue Irvin married Jimmy Rowe. And she's working at the Benton Bank over there. And Roger is next, and he's a school teacher. He went to Murray. I believe he made 2 hitches at Murray. He got 2, he went 2 different terms.
He probably got his bachelor's and then his master's.
Well, he
later.
got 2 masters, I believe. That's what he got over there when he went. All right, then he's a school teacher. Then I got a girl younger than Roger. She lives out here at me. Patsy married Joe Drafton, Merle Drafton's son. All right, he is a foreman down here at Goodrich, and she works up at one of the doctor's office, the eye doctor, but I don't know, Dr. Warren's office, but I don't know who the guy who is the young man that's taking his place there, Dr. Warren. Is in with Dr. Warren. I don't know his name. But anyway, then I've got one son that graduated from Murray, my youngest son, Dwayne. He's working in Paducah. He's working with McCoy and McCoy. Been with him for quite a while.
Do you have any grandchildren?
I've got 6. I've got 2 granddaughters and 4 grandsons.
Well, that ought to make you happy.
Well, 2 of the grandsons is coon hunters. We do a lot of coon hunting in this bottom. The youngest 2.
You like to hunt with them.
I like to hunt. You know, my daddy, I was raised with a bunch of dogs. My daddy always had dogs. He was a big hunter. Uncle Solon was a big hunter.
Oh, I've heard that.
All the Irvins I can recall, I guess, was pretty big hunters. But anyway, we do a lot of coon hunting. Tickles these boys to death. Keeps them out of maybe some trouble, you know.
Yeah.
They're getting up there around 15, 16. One of them's getting his driving license right now pretty quick. We do a lot of hunting. We got some pretty good dogs, and they ain't the best, but they do pretty good. Then we got neighbors we hunt with.
Now, today you told me you went to, was it Kaler to mill?
Kaler, yes, sir. That's the closest mill I've got to go to. See, Mr. Hooper up here, when he passed on, they closed that mill down. So over here at Kaler, I've got to go over there to have my corn hammered up and mixed, you know.
Yeah.
I've got a few cattle here. We raise a few cows, calves, and just a little row crop. Enough to try to make enough of feed to feed these calves a little bit, you know, instead of buying it. We put out rice mower hay. We went from the little square bales that you had to pitch up in the loft to those big round bales. You can just bale them and leave them out, set them outside and leave them out.
And the stock eat them right there.
They'll eat them, yes.
Doesn't, a lot of that doesn't rot.
No, it'll get a little dark, about 2 inches, and down under there it's just as bright. Now then, legume hay, you couldn't leave it out, like your clover, you know. You couldn't leave it out. The grass hay you can.
But,
it'll turn water like we used to stack it.
Timothy Red Top.
Yes, sir. You know, we used to stack a lot of hay back in my boys.
Oh, my dad thought he was a champion hay stacker, and he'd cap it off to where not much of it rotted. It, as you say, maybe a couple of inches.
That's right. He knew how to do it, see. You had to take that and lay it just right. But these balers, we bought a round baler. I couldn't get nobody to haul this square bales in. And we bought one of those round balers. I believe it's from 12 to 1,500 pounds to the roll. And we've got spikes on these tractors. We just back into it and spike it, stick that spike in it, pick it up.
That hydraulic lip will lift it right?
Yes, sir, and we set it down on some kind of pads or poles or automobile tires is mighty good.
Mm-hmm.
They'll sit right on that automobile tire and just sit there, just it's pretty
Keep it off the ground
off
enough
the ground.
to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
See, in 1977, I had bypass surgery. I went to Nashville, and I had 3 bypasses. Then that kind of slowed me down about this hay hauling. He told me not to do too much of that lifting. So we had to go to the round bale. We had a square bale, and I like the square bale. You know, you put it in the dry, and it looks better. And maybe
You can take a bale of hay out, break it, and
yes,
just kind of peel off, kind of like a wafer,
yes,
and give to a horse.
that's right.
Oh, I remember that well.
Well, now then, people have gone to the round bales and to the square, or they've got these stackers that stacks it, machines that stacks it like we used to stack it, but they stack it flat ways where we went up around sharp ways.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been working over at Calvert for 31 years. I worked over at SKW. Now, it used to be Pittsburgh Metallurgical.
Mm-hmm.
And I retired from over there. I retired in 81, I do believe, yes. I'd worked there 31 years, stayed with them. And, but I'd farm on the side. That's all I've ever done, farm a little and out.
You love farming, don't you?
Well, I don't know how to farm, but I
My
like to
dad
try.
always liked it.
Yeah. What I like about farming now, I retired, that you're your own boss, and we don't make much. I don't know how to farm, but I like to try.
Well, you draw a little Social Security.
Well, I draw Social Security, then I got a little pension from the plant down there, see.
Yeah.
Then we work here and raise a few cows and calves.
Pauline have chickens?
Well, we don't know chickens. She's working at school. She's worked at school for about 23, 24 years off and on together, see.
Mm-hmm.
She's a cook, but this is her last year. She's retiring this time.
Well, it sounds as if you've described a very full life and a wonderful life in many ways, and I'm sure you've had a lot of heartaches.
Yes, we all
But,
have, you know, and we've got all the troubles. I've got troubles, and everybody else has got some kind of troubles, I think. Maybe, you know, maybe mine may be a little worse, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just glad that I've lived 67 years, and my daddy lived 55. He was a young man when he passed on with heart trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So he handed it, they told me at Nashville, down to me.
Yeah.
See, I don't know anything about it, but
Well, my mother died at 50,
yes, see,
so
young.
and now I'm 65,
Yeah.
so I'm better off than she was.
I'll be a 68-year-old this coming September the 12th. I was born 1919, the 12th day of September. So I'll be 68 this, and don't seem like, when I was a boy, I thought a man was 65 or 60 was an old man.
Yeah.
He must have been.
Well, I thought they were old when they were 40.
Well,
But now that sounds like a little boy to
yeah,
me.
it does. I met a man at Benton today, Mr. Tarkett, and lived over here on 68 Highway, and he spoke to him and he said, "Hello, boy."
That made you happy.
I told him, I said, that makes me feel so good.
Yeah. Well, Dan Irvin, I sure thank you. You know, a half hour's gone by.
Well, I appreciate your coming, and I'm glad to have you in my home. And we'll kin, but I don't know just how much, but I know we'll kin.
Well, anyway, we're related.
That's right. You're right.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Dan
You're
Irvin
welcome.
at the home on the bottom road between Sharp and Benton, I suppose you'd say. And this is Ray Mofield. We return you now to our studio in Benton.